evening, everyone. Welcome into Vol Society Live on this Tuesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society. I'm the lead analyst, and it is SEC tournament time in Tennessee, literally, because it's in the state capital of Nashville. Like I said, welcome into Vol Society Live tonight. Phil saying good evening, David and Brad. Like I said, the chat room is already open. Phil's taking advantage of that. Whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or X, leave a comment on whatever social media platform you're watching, and we will read it tonight. As I mentioned, we will talk about the SEC tournament because that's the next slew of games for our beloved Tennessee Volunteers as they are about to make the trip west of Knoxville to Nashville, Tennessee at Bridgestone Arena. Of course, the Vols will not play until Friday afternoon, 12 o'clock local time. So we're going to break down the tournament tonight. Like I said, leave your comments and your questions. We're getting our viewership up right now. So like I said, whatever you want to talk about as far as the SEC tournament goes, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts too. And also, if you leave a like on the Facebook page, I'll try to give you a shout out tonight. All right, so like I said, it is SEC tournament time. I'm going to pull up the bracket. I haven't done this in a while on Vol Society, so let's see if I can still remember how to do this. Hey, there we go. So it is kind of a little blurry. Let's see if we can. Okay, it's zoomed in as best as I can. So it is a little small, but hopefully you can kind of read that here. The SEC tournament bracket, which starts tomorrow night in Nashville. The first game that will take place will be Vanderbilt at Arkansas. Hello to my grandparents watching along. As you see, Vanderbilt and Arkansas will be the first game. That is at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on the SEC Network. The winner of that game will meet South Carolina, and then Missouri and Georgia will be meeting following the Vanderbilt-Arkansas game, and the winner of that game will meet Florida. As you see, Tennessee, the number one seed, that's kind of where we're all here. They will meet the winner of Mississippi State and LSU. That game will take place, the first game will take place on that Thursday at noon, and then the Vols will tip off Friday at noon Central Time, so 1 o'clock for our East Coast viewers. Kind of looking at this SEC tournament bracket here, for Tennessee, obviously getting the number one seed, you uh, obviously winning the SEC regular season, getting the number one seed, and then you're taking on Mississippi State and an LSU team that Tennessee has. Actually, for LSU, Tennessee handled very well. For Mississippi State, Tennessee lost at their place. And Mississippi State, even though they're a ninth seed, has potential to still make the NCAA tournament. I want to give a shout out to Samuel, leaving us a like on the Facebook page, first one tonight. So like I said, for me personally, I could see Mississippi State as a 9 seed moving on to take on Tennessee on that Friday afternoon. And then you kind of look at who you might face on semifinal Saturday. You have Auburn as the 4 seed. Tennessee defeated Auburn in that 4-game stretch, that gauntlet that we had to close out the season. So like I said, it's going to be a tougher matchup, especially not having the home court somewhat. Even though you're in Nashville, you're going to have a lot of Vol fans there, but not going to have the home court advantage. You also have South Carolina, which Tennessee split during the regular season. The road team ended up winning both of those matchups. So you have a potential to meet one of those two teams. Phil says, I think we might be playing Mississippi State. And I agree. Tolo Smith was a all SEC first team selection. I think this Mississippi State team will move on past LSU. And, you look at the bottom of the bracket, you have Kentucky and Alabama, the 2 and the 3 seed. I actually, going in before this tournament start and even go back to last Saturday, I really thought Florida was going to be that sleeper team that would make it to semifinal Saturday, but after their performance against Vanderbilt, I am not sure about Florida at this point. They have really slipped in my eyes. So, I believe it might be Kentucky, Alabama in one of the semifinal matchups. And then, I actually like South Carolina making to semifinal Saturday to play us. Um, I just really, I think Auburn may give us, may end up pulling the win out over South Carolina. But I think South Carolina, to me, right now is a better team at this point. I think they're getting back to where they were just a few weeks ago. Uh, but we shall see there. But, it's going to be a fun tournament, in my opinion. I can't wait to see these matches right here. Um, kind of my early predictions for the tournament. I think, Vanderbilt and Arkansas, which is the first game tomorrow night. This, to me, is a pick 'em game. Arkansas has not played to the level that they've had before, and Vanderbilt coming off that big win against Florida over the weekend. It would not shock me if Vanderbilt, a scrappy team, and matter of fact, was pretty scrappy against Tennessee in Nashville at their place. It wouldn't shock me if Vanderbilt moves on and plays South Carolina on that Thursday afternoon. Missouri and Georgia. Missouri just not a good team at all. I mean, Sean East, congratulations, won SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year. So that's a feather in the cap for kind of been a disappointing year for, actually not kind of, definitely a disappointing season for Mizzou. And for Georgia, with Mike White and this crew, just not really much to play for. And I think Georgia will end up winning, but it's just going to be a kind of a two and done, if you will. They'll play Florida on that Thursday. I like Mississippi State taking care of LSU to play us. And then, as far as Vanderbilt and Arkansas, I'm actually going to go with Vanderbilt pulling the upset over Arkansas. But then I think South Carolina takes care of business. Ole Miss and A&M, they just played this past Saturday. A&M won that game. I'm actually going to take the upset. I think Ole Miss will get the revenge on A&M, and then I think I think Florida will beat Georgia. Phil says, I see an upset coming. Kentucky going down in the first game. Oh, okay. So do you see? So do you think A&M is going to win or Ole Miss there, Phil? That would be a big time momentum, especially for Texas A&M. They're like I said, they're kind of on the outside looking in. I don't think they'll make it either way, but they definitely need a deep run in the tournament. So we shall see. Like I said, who do y'all think about this tournament? What do you see any upsets? Do you think Tennessee's going to win the whole thing? Do you think Tennessee, can keep the number one seed if it even not winning the SEC tournament? Like I said, leave your comments or questions, or leave your comments really for that. But yeah, as far as the quarterfinals go for me, I think Tennessee will overcome and beat Mississippi State in quarterfinal Friday. I have South Carolina defeating Auburn, so I have a Tennessee South Carolina semifinal Saturday. Okay, so Phil says yes for Texas A&M over Ole Miss. He says, and Phil says Tennessee Vols all the way. I may have that same idea. So Kentucky, I think Kentucky will make it to semifinal Saturday. That would be a huge upset. I think they'll escape number 10 Ole Miss, and then I think Florida will defeat Georgia, and then I think Bama will take care of Florida. So you'll have the number 1 seed Tennessee against number 5 South Carolina, and I have number 3 Alabama and number 2 Kentucky. Kentucky. It depends on how. Well, we'll start with Tennessee first. Tennessee, South Carolina. So this will be the third matchup. As I mentioned, both the road teams won. Now you have a neutral site matchup. I truly believe Tennessee will defeat South Carolina in that semifinal Saturday, and we'll move on to the finals. And then in the other semifinal game, Kentucky and Alabama. It just depends on how Reed Shepherd does. If he is hot like he did in Nashville, and Rob Dillingham, who uh, normally is their most consistent player, SEC Six Man of the Year. Uh, I got in foul trouble in Knoxville. If that Kentucky team can play very well, I can see them moving on. Um, I go back and forth on that. I can but Alabama has won two SEC tournaments in the Nate Oates era. Um, you know, that's going to be a great game on that Saturday between Kentucky and Alabama. I'm actually going to go with Alabama. I'm going to go with Mark Ingram and Estrella, and I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide defeating Kentucky on that Saturday. And then you'll have a Tennessee-Alabama final. I think it's going to be a battle, but I am going with Phil. I think Tennessee will win the SEC tournament and secure a number one seed. You're in Nashville. You have the number one seed. Um, you have the talent to win the whole thing. Uh, for me, I just think with Dalton Knecht, coming off that 40-point performance, Zakai Ziegler, averaging like 15 points in the last four games. Jonas Adu is averaging about 12 a game. I just think Tennessee, I don't want to say they ran out of gas. I just think they just ran into a very talented Kentucky team, um, and just did not adjusted well with their bigs. And I mean, they had a lot of block shots in that game, but I think Tennessee will find a way to win the SEC tournament in Nashville. And I have them beating Alabama. Um, kind of going back to that Tennessee Kentucky game, it was an 85-81 win over the Cats. Some stats here for Tennessee. Obviously, Dalton Knecht goes for 40 points, 14 for 29, 6 for 15 from three-point land, 4 rebounds. Zakai Ziegler had a great game, 17 points, 4-11 from three-point land, 6 for 15 from the field, 9 assists. By the way, might as well go ahead and say congratulations to Dalton Knecht winning SEC Player of the Year. And also Zakai Ziegler, Defensive Player of the Year. Also, Ziegler and Knecht, all first SEC team. Ziegler, all defensive first team. And Jonas Adu, all second team and all defensive team. Phil says, hey, Barnes needs to go back to the high pick and roll. I think so. And that's kind of Dalton Knecht's specialty right there, that high pick and roll, and go with him. And I think you will see that this weekend coming up. I really truly believe that we will see that. I just think I think Tennessee has. I hope they have a full view of what's in store for them. You have, the SEC. I mean, you have a potential to get a number one seed. You're right now really in a battle between like Arizona and North Carolina, and I'm going to give you a little preview of Fast Break Friday. I already got the graphics on here. I think the two tournaments that Vol fans need to kind of keep an eye out on is the ACC tournament. There's the top six teams. I think North Carolina is trying to, get to a number one seed. If they can win the whole thing, of course, Duke's going to be in the way, obviously. And then for the Pac-12 tournament, you got Arizona. Arizona does have a loss to one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 in Oregon State. I think it's going to, but if Arizona can run the table, they could possibly leapfrog it. So I think it's so crucial for Tennessee to get over that. I feel wondering, where's everyone? We got a lot of viewers just kind of quiet there. I know Brad, our buddy. Oh well, hope y'all enjoy the Vol Society live stream. Brad and Dees was at the game on Saturday. Of course, Brad's now back in Charlotte. Greg is watching us tonight. Who's going to step up and help Knecht and ZZ? Got to get the ball up high to Adu. I think. I mean, you mentioned really kind of the nucleus right there with Knecht and Ziegler. Adu. I think it comes down to your veterans, Sandy and James, Triple J. I think that's your starting five right there. That's your veterans. that's going to have to make plays. I like James as far as getting rebounds go. He had a great game as far as like getting rebounds and keeping this in the game. So I think he's a big key part. I think I also think Sandy, his leadership contributing. I think also the bench too. J.My Meshack, very underrated player. Tobe Awaka. If AD gets into foul trouble, you got a Waka that can clean up. Um, it's gonna come down to that. Phil said, "Great job, Brad, on Saturday." Um, yeah, Brad did a great job of that live stream. Him and Dees did. But I think your bench players are going to have to really step up. Jordan Gainey's another one. I think everybody's going to have to really step up and contribute going forward, not only in this SEC tournament but for the NCAA tournament. And Tennessee needs to avoid those cold spells that has really been hurting us last 2 or 3 years. Even though we do have a go-to scorer in Connect that can get us right back in the games, but you want to keep the pedal to the metal, especially with a hot shooter like that. Veronica watching us tonight on Facebook says, "Go Vols!" Go Vols! Back to you, Veronica. Greg says Triple J's best game was against Kentucky and Rupp. Still waiting to see Sandy put up double digits. Yeah, and that's a bit of a surprise because we know Sandy can do that. He's been around for 5 year, almost 5 years now. Just yeah, I just don't know kind of what is going on. My biggest criticism with this team, and I get so frustrated, is when they have a clear path to the lane and they can lay it in for an easy two, that they kick it right back out. I've seen Sandy do it. I saw Triple J do it Saturday. Ziegler at times will do that, but it kind of drives me nuts when they do that drive to the lane and then they kick it back out, especially if there's nobody underneath the basket. Go ahead and just take the basket. And I'm sure it's probably a design play that Coach Barnes has come up with. And, he's got 800 career wins and I don't. So, he probably knows more than I do. Obviously, he knows more than I do, but I don't know. It just kind of frustrates me seeing that and could really pick up some easy points in that perspective. Shout out to Ricky and Eddie leaving us a like on the Facebook page tonight. Yeah, just going to be a big week. Obviously, I think I feel confident as far as how we're going to do. I I think what needs to happen is don't get fatigued in this tournament. And we saw Tennessee in the past where 2019, for example, where Tennessee played Kentucky and had that big overtime win. That's when we had Grant Williams and Jordan Bolden, Schofield, and then Tennessee was just gassed for Championship Sunday against Auburn. Matter of fact, that's happened a couple times. And then, but the year we won, we ended up taking on an A&M team that was gassed. So I really want to see how Tennessee's stamina is going throughout this tournament. I don't think Tennessee is not really going to meet too many physical teams, although I think you're going to have teams that's going to push Tennessee around, but Tennessee's one of the most physical teams in the nation too. So Greg says one thing that drives me crazy is we shoot free throws, great one night, almost 100% at South Carolina, and then shoot 60% at home. That's a great point too. Free throws are going to be crucial also. From the charity stripe, especially. I mean, the 60% at home is just ridiculous, in my opinion, because you don't have the crowd, the opposing crowd yelling and screaming and having signs and balloons or whatever distracting you. It's all silence, but they do better on the road um, than at home, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Greg says, "Would you rather be the number one seed in the West or a top two seed anywhere?" Um, it I guess it depends on who you're. Um, well, okay. So in my opinion, what I think you'll see, um, if Tennessee gets the number one seed in the West, the number two seed will probably be Arizona. I think we can match up well with them. As far as the others go, if we're a number two, let's say in where Purdue's at, so they'll probably be the Midwest. You did play them in Maui. I don't know if they can match up well with Edie again. I mean, they could. Houston really scares me right now. I think Houston right now is the most consistent team in the South. All right, they'll probably be the number one team in the South. I probably wouldn't want to face Houston. And then UConn. UConn would be a fun matchup. I think we can be real physical with them. But I would stick with the number one seed in the West and kind of go from there. But you also got to watch out for those 8-9 matches. It seems like we saw was it Alabama last year was the number one, ended up losing like to San Diego State or something like that. So I think I would probably be the number one seed in the West. If I was the number two, I would want to be matched up with UConn and maybe some like Mountain West schools. Grace says maybe we were tired Saturday and our legs were gone. I think a little bit, but I will give them credit for making an effort to come back several times. It's just couldn't get over that final hump. Phil says, last we stay away from Houston. Brad now is entered in. Says, what's up, Vol Society? So Brad's finally in. Phil wanted me to tell you, Brad, that y'all did a great job on the live stream, you and D's Saturday. Brad and D's were at the Tennessee-Kentucky game. Brought you some great content. Zakai Ziegler was on the video. Talk to some players, try to get Dalton Connect, but Dalton kind of went away there. Which, hey, he's a hot celebrity right now. So, excuse me, kind of expected there. But matter of fact, D's is D's is 1/3 of the good old Rocky Talk football podcast with myself and Brad. For those who are new, Brad said had a great time at the game. Yeah, it was looked like a great time. I wish I was with y'all, but I had to take care of some stuff at work. So, but I got to go see him in December, and who knows, we may catch a game somewhere down the road. Kind of go ahead and refresh what we're doing. Like I said, I showed the bracket tonight. Go ahead and pull it back up in case if you missed it. So there is the SEC tournament bracket. Oh yeah, great time talking with DJ. Glad y'all got to run into him towards the end of the game. There's the SEC bracket if you're tuning in late. My opinion is for the SEC tournament, I have Tennessee playing Alabama in the SEC championship. And I think Tennessee's going to win. I believe Mississippi State will get the win over LSU and move on to the semifinals. I think they'll beat South Carolina in the semifinals and Bama for the championship. Greg says, another thing I wonder is why Barnes didn't run the press earlier on Saturday and tried to change the momentum. Yeah, that's a good question there. I'm not quite sure. I think unless he was just comfortable with running what he had, I probably would have, but I guess he just thought, well, with Dalton Connect, he can go off for 40 for us and, maybe get back in the game. But, yeah, I mean, with a team like Kentucky, you had to be physical with them. And I just think, going through that 4-game gauntlet, like Greg said, maybe our legs were gone. But, I give them credit for making a run. Brad says, will the Vols win it all in the SEC tourney? Oh, drop something down here. Drop the flash drive. There we go. Greg says, unless he knew they were tired. Could be that, too. Yeah, could be. Also, I'll throw a question out there. What do you think will be the best game this upcoming weekend, the SEC tournament? I mean, it can be a game that's already listed, or it can be a game that could happen. I think the best game in the weekend could be that Kentucky-Alabama semifinal game if they do meet up. I think it'll be a fun little matchup along the way. I'm going to turn this off because it's like dropping my Wi-Fi there. All right. Greg says physical is our problem inside and rebounding. Yeah, I think a little bit there. Brad says we lost Saturday because they weren't hitting the shot, or we lost Saturday because Kentucky, were hitting shots and we didn't. Kentucky was on fire. Yeah, Reed Shepherd just went off in that game. It's just unreal. Greg says anybody that plays Florida could be the game of the weekend. Yeah, I had, like I said, Greg, I had Florida really as my sleeper team in the tournament. It's just that loss to Vanderbilt just kind of took a lot of sales out. I think they'll still make the tournament as an 8-9 seed, but man, that you should have pulled that off, and I think they could have probably been, maybe I could have, maybe where Kentucky's at. Who knows? Phil says, do you think losing Saturday will give more momentum to us? I think so, a little bit. I mean, I'm glad we wrapped up the. That's why I said I'm kind of glad we wrapped up the SEC championship on that Wednesday, even though it took a lot of the drama out for the Kentucky game. But still, I hope they get focused and get ready for the tournament in Nashville. Like I said, kind of a reality check a little bit. Uh, I think we can. Brad says he agrees. Greg says, Brad, we're a little soft on the defense and definitely allowed too many runouts in that one. Yeah. Any other questions or comments as far as the tournament goes, or the SEC tournament goes, or even the NCAA tournament? Of course, there is some discussion. We'll go ahead and mention this. There is some discussion that Tennessee could be playing in Brad's backyard in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a lot of a discussion of Tennessee playing in Charlotte, either as a number 1 or number 2 seed. And Charlotte is a favorite to pick up the Vols to play in the NCAA tournament. So hopefully that is the case. I would love to see that. Bryce says, who's making the trip to Nashville or anywhere? I wish I could go to Nashville over there. But not going to happen this weekend, but I'll watch from home. Greg says, other than our 4 SEC losses, we lost 3 of the top 8 in North Carolina, Purdue, and Zona out there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, we really don't have a huge loss on our resume. I would say A&M is our biggest loss of the year, and it was at their place. And then the 2 home losses, I mean, with South Carolina and Kentucky. So top 25 teams right there. Actually, I don't think South Carolina was ranked when we played them, but eventually they did. And then like our non-con losses, North Carolina at their place, and then Purdue and Maui. Greg says ticket prices are insane for Nashville. I can imagine they are. Yeah, and Nashville's just so expensive right now. Yeah, Mississippi State. Yeah, we lost to Mississippi State. Yeah, that's all. That. Yeah, I mean Mississippi State, I guess, is still considered a bubble team, but I don't see them making it. It's just very hard for a lot of SEC teams to kind of get in there. Brad says, do you want us to create a March Madness bracket this year? Winner will receive a prize. Let us know. I know Kevin Huckabee wants to play in there. So basically, it will be a a pool per se. Well, like the March Madness bracket. So our Vol Society fans will fill out a bracket along with us, and the winner, whoever gets the most games right, will get a Vol Society prize. Should be a lot of fun. Got some more shout out to my mom leaving us a like on the Facebook, and my dad and Michelle leaving us a like. And then Grace says, yeah, it'd be sweet. Phil says, revenge if it is Mississippi State. Yeah, because we didn't even get to play them a second time compared to some of the other losses like A&M and South Carolina. Kentucky was a reverse. Yeah, and Greg says nosebleed isn't $150. I mean, and that's probably and even going back to Greg's point, that's not even counting like parking and hotels and food and everything else. So, I mean, you're going to be spending a lot of money if you go to the SEC tournament this year. Of course, everything else is up. Brad says, can the Vols make it to the final for this year? I think for me, depends on who we get in our bracket. And, if Tennessee can play to their best, top level between Connect, Adu, Z, I think those are the three big ones that's going to have to really contribute and not go on cold spells or get in foul trouble. I also think contributing from Santee and Triple J. I mean, even at this point, like with Santee and Triple J, I don't want them to go off for 30 points or whatever, but if they can at least get in the double digit, if all five of our starters can get into double digits or get close to it, I think you got a great shot. And the cold spells, you cannot go on those cold spells where you're 6-7 minutes not getting any points, and it's 3-pointers, so everything's got to click. Greg says, Brad, I think if we're number one seed, we got a great shot. Brad says Vescovi needs to be on two. Yeah. Had a question earlier talking about besides Adu and Z and Connect, who needs to step up, and I said Santee and Triple J, and also the bench players. But yeah, Sandy's going to have to really help us out along the way. I want to see Santee go out the way I remember him, being just a great all around player. Greg says, got to get Adu involved early and keep him from having to put the ball on the floor. Yeah, that's a big one too. Adu, I really think Adu is outside of Edey and maybe one of the Kentucky guys. I think Adu is probably one of the best all-around post players going to be in this tournament. He has really stepped up. He can not only score in the paint, he can rebound, he can dunk, he can block. They're going to have to really get Adu involved, and Adu can pull up from the mid-range shot if he needs to. Phil says they can make it, but players got to step up to the Final Four. Yeah. And Greg says Santee is not Santee from years past except defense, and he has a problem with silly fouls. That's another thing with him. At times, I like his aggressiveness on the court, but it seems like at times it does hurt him. So, but hopefully he can have a nice send off in the SEC tournament and in the NCAA tournament. I really like Santee. I mean, he's a fan favorite. But yeah, it seems like this year's Santee is not the same as it was. I would even say even last year to a certain degree. Really didn't. Just not the same. Gray says, who can be a surprise for us in these tournaments? As far as the SEC tournament goes, I think it could be South Carolina. Could be a surprise. I would even say Auburn. If Auburn can survive South Carolina, we saw even though Tennessee kind of took care of business at home, but we know what South Carolina can do with Michie Johnson, and they can really shoot the three good. Taylon Cooper, and then for Auburn, Janai Broom's a great player. For them, Jay Will is finally healthy. He played against us in his first game back. He's now really playing well. And then, oh, okay, he meant a player as a surprise. Oh, okay, I got you. Jamon Meshack. I think Jamon Meshack can be a surprise player for us that can really contribute. On the way. Brad says, not to change the subject, but the Lady Vols loss was a disgrace, just terrible. Yeah. So my experience with that, we get the game was done, Tennessee, Kentucky, and I flipped on the ESPN app to check the stats, and I saw that I knew the Lady Vols were playing South Carolina, but I didn't have a lot of interest in it. But I saw that they were tied, so I was like, "Oh, we're tied with South Carolina in overtime." So I flipped it over there, and you know, started watching like the last minute or so, just kind of processing what was going on, and I just don't get why in the world. First of all, you missed the two free throws, which you should have nailed, and second of all, I don't get why in the world you you fouled. Or I guess Kelly thought maybe they had enough fouls to send to the line, sent to double overtime. But then, the Lady Vols, once they broke back out and they passed it in bound, or on the sideline, passed it in bounds, you had a player that was supposed to be guarding that person 10, 15 feet away from the ball, and then the rest of the team was underneath the basket. It was just, it made no sense at all. This bad game management, and that goes back to Kelly. Uh, yeah, and Grace says, "What in the world did Kelly say to those girls how to defend?" Uh, I don't exactly. And Brad says, "Just awful." Yeah, it was just bad management, and that loss was indeed a disgrace. I don't know how you can recover from that. I mean, even if you're basketball 101, if you know that they're going to inbound, get somebody in there in the inbound, jump up and down, put your hands up. That's what I've heard playing basketball. Put your hands up, put your hands up. And yeah, and Grace said they just stood there. We didn't even cover any areas, and we had a foul to give. Yeah, and I agree, Brad. It has to be the coaching. Um, just pitiful, pitiful all the way around. It's just mind boggling to see that. Put your, like I said, put your hands up. Even if you, when they pass it in, you swat it away and it goes out of bounds on you, that takes a few tenths of a second off the clock. Even at the end, just make her force up a bad shot. And even if it still goes in, okay, lucky shot. But I mean, we could have made it. Phil says, "How long is Kelly at Tennessee?" It's not long. I'll just say that I just don't see where you go from there. Um, yeah, I think she'll get another year, but if the next year she comes back and they miss the tournament, that's when you got to make the change. And Brad says, "Boy, I miss Pat," and indeed I do too. But if you do make a change, as much as I love Pat Summit, and I mentioned this last week, you got to break away from the Pat Summit circle. And you like, don't call Carol Lawson, don't call any ex Lady Vols. As much as I love them, but we've already went down this road two times already, and both have just not worked out. Um, just unreal. Uh, Greg says, "Last question, I promise." Yeah, no, you're doing great, good, Greg. I appreciate the questions. But Greg says, "Do you think, or do you like the ISOs for Connect instead of running our fluid offense?" Um, I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind the ISOs for Connect. I mean, he's your hot shooter right now, averaging you know, averaging well over 20 points a game. If he can shoot it and is consistent, let him run it. I agree. Um, Now, if you have like an ISO with a cold shooter, yeah, don't do it. But with Connect, I'm okay with it because I know he's gonna make it eventually. Phil says Kentucky already making coach change. Oh, who they? I'm not familiar with that one, Phil. You have to fill me in on it. I hadn't. I've been between NFL free agency today and kind of prepping for the SEC tournament. I've kind of neglected on the other stuff. Oh, I guess it has to be the women. Yeah, it has to be the women's already making the coach and change. Now that I think about it, I bet it's the Is it the women coach, women's coach? Because I was thinking like Calipari. I was like, wait, what? Um, oh boy, yeah, because Kentucky women's has really, yeah, okay, Kentucky women's, okay, so yeah, I know like Kentucky since Ryan Howard left Kentucky, I've noticed that that program has really dropped, so it should come as no surprise. Yeah, so we'll see where Kentucky goes from there. I'll even say this. I don't know if this will happen. I think the Lady Vols will make the tournament, but if they don't make it this year for some crazy reason, yeah, I think you can go ahead and make that discussion too. And Danny White is not going to allow this. I think Danny White's her boss. Has to be. I know at one time we had two ADs for the women's and men's program, but I think. Press says Holly has. I think McKelly has a year left. Got Holly Warlick messed up. Yeah, I think Kelly's probably got a year left. But lot it's gonna be very interesting. Yeah, Kelly. I figured that's who you meant was Kelly Harper instead of Holly Warwick. But yeah, I mean, they're very identical. Matter of fact, hate to say it, but I would probably even say Holly's probably had a better run than Kelly because Holly won an SEC tournament. What has Kelly won as far as anything significant? I mean, maybe a few random games here and there, but yeah. And don't get me wrong, and I love Kelly when Kelly Harper, Kelly Jolly, when she played for us, I loved her as a player. Um, it's just unfortunate enough that she's fallen victim to the same thing that Holly Warlick did, is living in the shadow of Pat Summitt, and that's why I think if you do make the change, you're going to have to find a different avenue. You're going to have to kind of break out of the Pat Summitt bubble because you got to get some new ideas and new blood in there. Brad says big fan, but she isn't the best coach for us now. And for this Lady Vols team, they got way too much talent to be where they're at. I mean, with Rakia Jackson, Jules Spears really stepped up, Sarah Puckett, Tamari Key, Hollinshead. I mean, they got way too much talent to be where they're at. And with women's basketball, to be honest with you, it's kind of one team versus the field. We've seen it. I mean, the Lady Vols was that one team before, and we've seen over the decades with UConn, Stanford, South Carolina now, LSU last year. Um, it's kind of always been that way, but you could still be consistent. Greg says, I hope we get a shot at UK again. That would be good. Be the third time matchup, and usually when we play them in the tournament, we get the win. Phil says, would Karen Peck make a good coach that used to coach Vandy? I think I think she'd be fine. I mean, she's not in the Pat Summitt tree per se, so that would be a good start. Um, I know she does broadcasting for ESPN, so could be. I wouldn't mind making a call. I think. I mean, it's a long shot to get her, but I think we got the money to buy her. Dawn Staley at South Carolina. I think we've got the money to pay her. It's just how loyal is she to Columbia and South Carolina, which I'm sure they got money too that can re-up her. But anyways, that's like I said. I mean, Kelly's not fired just yet. I know we're talking like she's already gone, but it's just something kind of think about it. Brad said would love her, and I truly believe we can afford her. I mean, we can afford. I mean, between where Heupel and Tony V and Barnes is getting paid, and with your TV money coming in, why not? But it's neither here nor there. But any other questions or comments? We went through all the Shout out to Misty and Tyler and my Uncle Tim leaving us a like on the Facebook page tonight. Appreciate y'all tuning in and watching. Brad says, we at the University of Tennessee, we are the University of Tennessee. We got money. Indeed, we do. A lot of it. And some good money coming in, some bad money coming in, but I'll leave it as that. But mostly good. Anyways, so I'm going to give you an update of the schedule coming up for this week and next week. So we will have the final episode of Fast Break Friday coming up this Friday at noon. I just got to remember to upload it at 12 o'clock and not 7 p.m. But it's either here or there. And then Sunday, we're going to be back here live Sunday night, this Sunday night at 8 o'clock for Selection Sunday. We will find out who Tennessee will be playing in the NCAA tournament. We're going to pull up the bracket. Hopefully the Wi-Fi will hold up when I do the bracket. And, we will kind of, like we did tonight with the SEC tournament, kind of give you an idea of how Tennessee can get to Phoenix for the Final Four and who we're matching up with. So that's going to be this Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 Central, Selection Sunday, Vol Society Live special episode. We've done this before, and we'll talk about it too. And indeed, madness is here from Brad, and thank you, Phil. Have a great night to you. We'll go ahead and start wrapping it up tonight. Thank you for everybody tuning in for Vol Society Live. Like I said, we will be back Sunday night for Selection Sunday Live, to be exact. Greg says, let's win this SEC tournament and leave no questions about our seed. I love it. Brad says, have a great week, Vol Society. Thanks for following us. 45,000 strong. Continue to follow our social media pages, like the Facebook page, or like the video, I should say, going out as you leave, going out tonight. We'll catch you all back here this Sunday night at 8 o'clock for Selection Sunday Live, part of Vol Society Live. Until next time, this is David Morrison saying have a great night and go Vols.